If you open the map and take a look towards the western tip of the African continent, you'll see a small country that stretches along a river inside Senegal, has no other neighbors, and almost splits Senegal in two. This country, Gambia, which is like a dagger stabbed into the heart of its neighbor, is also the smallest country on the African continent. So how can such a country exist? Why was there a need to establish it? It's almost as if someone plotted against Senegal. So let's take a closer look at the borders of Gambia, which has some of the strangest borders in the world, and examine the reasons behind them. As I mentioned, Gambia is a country that follows the Gambia River, with borders mainly equidistant from both riverbanks. Its only border, other than Senegal, is a short coastline facing the Atlantic Ocean. There's a common origin story about Gambia that's mostly true, but often told inaccurately. British and French colonizers sought to control these lands. The two rivers in the region were the most convenient routes to reach the rich resources inland. These are the Senegal River in the north and the Gambia River in the south. The French held the mouth of the Senegal River, while the British held the mouth of the Gambia River. According to the story, the navies of the two countries sailed up the rivers. They controlled and began shelling both sides of the rivers. Borders were determined by which country's cannons had the longest range. The land within that range was given to them. This story, though based on a real event, is actually an urban legend. It's part of a historic conversations in English pubs and French cafes, shaped by the atmosphere and wine. The most illogical part is claiming the Gambia River is the region's only navigable river for military and commercial ships. The Senegal River isn't designed for large ships to travel that way. The Portuguese were the first European colonizers to settle in the area around the Gambia River. The current name of the river, and therefore the country, is also based on the Portuguese word cambio, which means trade. By the late 1500s, the English started arriving in the region. With the authority of the English king, the English began to purchase the rights to use some of the land here from the Portuguese. They gradually increased their influence and became key players in the region. Later on, other European colonizers, the Dutch and the French, began to arrive in the region. The interests of the British, the French, and the Dutch here mostly conflicted with each other. The British base in the region was on small islets at the Gambia River's mouth, where Banjul, the current capital, is now located. These islets were logistically connected to the British trading centers of the Gold Coast, Sierra Leone, and Ghana, and for this reason, they were of significant strategic importance. For a long time, colonial powers would fully control small pieces of land in Africa and establish bases there, as long as there was no situation threatening their interests. In this way, they were able to use their power efficiently and economically. They only dealt with the interior regions to seize the goods there. They stored the goods they obtained in the small pieces of land they controlled and transferred them to Europe by ships. The British established bases on the islets at the Gambia River's mouth as part of this strategy. In this way, they didn't need to control larger areas or have more soldiers. By the 1800s, French colonizers shifted strategy, expanding from Senegal's northern territories into the interior and taking control there as well. They expanded their areas of control up to the vicinity of the banks of the Gambia River. In 1888, England declared the area around the Gambia River under its protection to stop French control. However, there was still no definite agreement on which areas would be controlled by the French and which by the English. In 1889, the parties met in Versailles to negotiate their spheres of influence. Following negotiations, they agreed to create a joint border commission and send it to the region. This border commission arrived at the Gambia River in 1891 to draw the official and final map of the region. However, the commission officials faced resistance from the local people and had to seek support from British ships patrolling the river. According to the guide published by the commission in 1906, called the Colony and Protectorate of Gambia, British ships shelled the town of Kansala to suppress the resistance of the local people. And, as a result of this event, the range of the cannons became a key point for drawing the border. The British would control the areas along both sides of the Gambia River, extending 6 miles inland to the north and south, and reaching as far east as Yarbutenda. At that time, Yarbutenda was one of the important trading posts held by the French. Thus, the exact borders of the British colonial territories were established, and the country of Gambia was born. However, the British and French borders mostly divided people of the same culture, even families, into two. In Senegal, French became the official language, while in Gambia it was English. After World War II, during the Cold War, Western countries sought to demonstrate their claimed democracy. Senegal became independent from France in 1960, Gambia from England in 1965. Of course, behind the scenes, their resources were still being exploited. The United Nations commissioned a report in the 1960s on the potential for a possible union between the two countries. However, these efforts lacked enough support from Senegal and Gambia. In 1981, leftist groups in Gambia tried a coup while President Dawda Jawara was in England for Prince Charles and Lady Diana's wedding. The Senegalese army intervened in the coup attempt. After the Senegalese army intervened, Dawda Jawara kept his seat and the two countries grew closer. The Senegambia Confederation was formed in 1982 to promote commercial and political cooperation between the two countries, marking an initial move toward unification. This confederation never produced the desired results. Both sides had reservations and distrust toward each other. As a result of increasing disagreements, the confederation dissolved in 1989. You might wonder, since Senegal surrounds Gambia, why doesn't it just annex the small country? Actually, the Senegambia Confederation was an attempt at this. During the Confederation, Abdou Diouf, then president of Senegal and the Senegambia Confederation, made an interesting statement in 1987. He said Gambia's existence was a historical accident. Many experts say the Confederation effectively dissolved after this statement. Both are now members of the African Union. One of the most important and indisputable principles of the African Union is the preservation of existing borders. If we set aside the Arab and Berber countries in North Africa, the countries in the region also known as Sub-Saharan Africa contain dozens, sometimes even more, local communities within them. If even the slightest tolerance is shown for changing borders on this continent, it could be like pulling the pin on a big bomb. Senegal's southern territories are a key agricultural region. The products produced here are transported by land through Gambia to the northern cities. Gambian officials sometimes raise fees for this passage and occasionally find reasons to close the Senegal border. If Gambia is closed, the distance triples. What's more frustrating is that interior roads in Senegal are neglected and full of potholes. Casamance is the region of Senegal located between Gambia and Guinea-Bissau. As I mentioned earlier, this is an important agricultural region and one of the main lifelines that feeds the country. Separatist movements are strong in Casamance. The settlements near the Gambia border are also affected by the Senegalese army's intervention against the separatists, because the separatists usually escape into Gambia's interior. European colonizers drew Africa's borders to suit their interests, which has always seemed strange to people. Some of these borders were drawn with a ruler at a desk, while others, like the borders of Gambia, led to the creation of countries that have nothing to do with the people living there.